你揾個軸心去做旋轉，就唔係揾啲力量去。
The key thing is in Chum Kiu Form, you find your axis, not using force to do the rotations. You find your axis to do the.
Does it feel like a motor? Does it feel like a motor, like an engine, or is it just a force?
係咪好似一個摩打？
係一個摩打。佢個軸心轉動嗰支嘢咧就好強啦，轉出嚟。
And axis rotating, very powerful, generating momentum.
So that axis you're mentioning is not the spine. I guess it's more like in the middle of the body, or it's also of the whole body. Can you talk about that axis where is it?
嗰條軸係
喺條脊骨度，個中心脊骨嘅中心點，個人嘅重量嘅中心點。
It's along the axis and it's the center of your weight, center of your weight.
So in the middle, like.
So it's along the spine.
But this is more into that.
Sorry?
The spine is more into that. The spine is more into that.
More of that.
It's saying it's more in the back, it's not in the middle.
嗰條脊骨係個身體後一啲喎，唔係佢身體中間嘅。
係啊，你自己唔係喺脊骨令脊骨轉，即係喺自己嘅中心諗住轉就已經係得㗎啦。其實就自己重量嘅中心。
You're not thinking the spine rotating. You're thinking rising up the spine, then your center of the weight to initiate the rotation, and that's it.
有幾個問題，你嘅意思係咪丹田啊？你個中心位係咪即係丹田嚟嘅？
丹田中心。
唔係單田。
Is it the same as 丹田？
每一個人個重量中心有少少分別，有啲人上邊瘦啲，底下粗啲，佢個中心咧會低咗啲；有啲人啲腳好撩，上邊好大，佢中心會高上啲。
It's not exactly the 丹田. It depends on the configuration of different people, the body spirit. Someone might be heavier or heavier. Then the center will be different.
It also depend on, I guess, if someone's really, if they're really big out this way, the center's going to be further out this way. Yeah. Or like somebody's big out.
好肥大冇冷咁啊！
係啦，嗰個前啲啦。
請問你個中心喺邊度揾咧？
嗱，你自己決定啊！呢個就我上重下輕個中心高啲，下重上輕就中心低啲。
自己到時
即係揾支嘢，我晾正中間就嗰支嘢唔會兩頭搖，嗰個係中心啊。
She wants us how to find the center. Sifu said, "It's your task. Because only you can feel where the center is."
嗱，中間力量嚇，中心力量。我隻手咁樣，佢捉我又好，我捉佢，一人捉一隻啦，你捉住我，我捉住呢隻，咁樣咧，如果我用你嗱，我咁推你呢隻頂翻我轉頭，呢隻就拉我，嗱咁樣，咁因為佢嘅力量好大，我而家用力量。我哋試過但係你唔怕㗎，你照推我啊！嗱，你贏咗我，我知道贏。嗱，我用中心旋轉嗰種力量，你而家推我啦。嗱，我即刻改變中心。呢個就中間旋轉力量，呢個就唔係中間啊！你再推多次。嗱，呢個又唔係中間，呢個就用using a straight on the center. 中心力量。
So you want to push him that way?
即係咁樣。嗱，你總住我咁樣，我唔俾你想轉嗰邊。
You want to turn this way?
我唔俾你轉。
Yeah, 師公 stop you.
咁樣係啦，我唔俾你轉。
Then you try to.
咁你又唔俾我轉，我
You try to stop him. He want to turn this way.
你唔俾我轉。係啦。
Yeah.
Between muscle and then.
Yeah, your muscular force, and Qigong is using the turning, joints turning.
如果佢唔俾我轉，
Then try again.
我用力
You use this kind of force,
冇得鬥啦，
muscular
因為我唔
force.
係力嗱，我呢啲力冇得鬥。
This is muscular
我呢啲
force.
有得鬥啊！
But this kind of force, yeah, he can counter him.
嗱，好啦，阿姐。
頭先第二種力係叫咩嚟㗎？電力啊？
轉動嘅力，佢頭先
圓形嘅力
圓形嘅力，唔係佢話頭先師傅你示範呢一種力咧係屬於一種轉馬嘅力。Yeah. Power from pivoting and rotation.
第二種就圓形嘅力，你嚟啦。咁你又可以做乜嘢啊？
你想點啊？
嗱，我移你過嚟呢邊，你就唔俾我。嗱，你整住我。
你整向
嗱
towards that side.
嗱，呢個係圓形嘅。
It's using circular movement.
再嚟一次。
Circular movement. It's using circular movement.
頭先我哋係咁樣嚇，而家就多咗個
Yeah.
手。
The first demonstration is just pivoting the body, no circular movement in the arms. The second is circular movement in the arms.
嗰種啊算向向力，好似頭先有個捉住我。
So this is multidirectional force.
你拱我去嗰邊，
好似咩啊
我就想轉呢邊，咁樣咧。
He wants to pivot there.
單向。
This is one way.
咁想轉佢嗰邊，咁啊單向。
This is one direction.
到我想唔係單向咧，我就同其餘一個做啦。我除咗轉之外咧，我呢隻手有轉。
So apart from going there, he also have a circular movement. This is
手
multidirectional.
咁樣轉，咁即係有
So
兩個
one
方向嘅
direction,
力
two directions.
啊，咁啊雙向。
So this is an example of multidirectional forces.
佢咁樣，佢唔俾我做。
You
我做
stop
呢
him.
度啊，佢
You
唔
stop
俾我
him.
做好比較易啲。
This is easy.
但係一到我咁樣咧，
But if add one more direction, it's
即係
hard for
第二
him
個方向
to stop.
應付唔到啊！
How many directions can multi-directions?
哦，佢話可以同時間產生幾多個方向嘅力
好多個啊！
？Can be many.
個手踭有一個，前臂有一個。
One from elbow, one from forearm,
轉動有一個
body
咁
another,
啊，再上下扭動有一個。
and twisting
好多
another. So you can generate many directions at the same time.
So being able to develop multi-directional force in Wing Chun is a very interesting concept, and I think it's an important one to understand and to start to apply and practice throughout Chum Kiu Form. So I think everyone understands what the concept is in terms of giving more than one direction of force at the same time. But for those who didn't quite understand it through the video, basically it means that, for example, if you imagine if two people are sort of pushing on each other's palm like this, if I'm doing this and someone's doing the same thing to the side, so we're both resisting each other's force. In that he's resisting mine in that direction and vice versa. If we both do that as hard as we can, and then as we're doing this, if a third person comes, even if it's a 5-year-old kid, comes from the side, and as we're doing that to each other, resisting each other's force, incoming force, if that person pushes to the side, then that kid has introduced a second direction of force, and both of us will it'll be very hard to resist both the incoming force and that force at the same time. We will probably result in doing something like this. So this is basically being able to apply more than one vector or more than one direction of force in the same time. And in the video, what Qigong demonstrated this by, you saw in the first one, he was just holding his arm out like this and moving. So that's just one direction. That's just the center, from the center of mass, from that point turning this way. So from one direction. It was quite powerful. And mind you, this in these videos that I think this one was at 2011, 2012. So it was a couple of years before he died, and but by this time he had already, from what he said, he'd already he lost around 70 to 80% of his power. He said what he could show was only 20 or 30% of his power left compared to what he was doing when he was in his 40s, 50s, younger. And one story to show that this part of Bill G, so this is not using any second vector, this is just holding here and going like that. He said in the very early days when he was practicing Bill G, and this is in the very early days, so it's in the first few years that he was, let's say the first 4 or 5 years that he was practicing in the association. So there was a small group in the association. There was, him, Wong Sheng Long, Lok Yu, Long Sheng by that time already had left, but there's Derek Fong, William Chung. So all these people that were there, there was a small amount of people. This is before Bruce Lee started, or much longer before his sons started doing it. So when he was practicing this one, he said Ip Man came up to him and sort of held his arm like that. So Sigung was holding Ip Man's forearm. And he said he held him and he just did his movement, turned from here, and he said he sent Ip Man flying across the room. Because Ip Man must have seen something. Oh, he's doing something right, so he wanted to test it. Did that. And then and Ip Man asked him, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just turning from here. And he explained what he was doing. And then Ip Man said to the whole class, all right, everyone, just you practice this movement and practice it the way he said. So what I'm saying is in his younger years, he was very, very powerful. So even in that first method that he showed in the video there where that big student was holding him and he was just doing this one, back in the day, that would have been enough to send someone flying. But you saw in the video, he still moved him, but he had to use the second direction when he did it on me and with the smaller guy. So the first one he was doing this one, and then for the one on the smaller guy and on myself, he showed that if you can continue that going, so we were resisting his center turning, that's one direction, and then he moved his arm, that's the let's say second and third directions, then you saw the effect on our bodies straight away. We couldn't resist 2 or 3 directions all at the same time. So I think it's a very important sort of concept to start to understand and develop when we're practicing our Chum Kiu Form. First step is to find our center, And in that, again, there was another clip in that video where someone asked, is it turning from the spine? What he would say, and what I teach myself is, I do say when you Tai Gong, Sing, when you get that upright, that straight line, maintain that. So keep that and turn from there, So now this can cause some misunderstandings. A couple of years ago, 2 of my most senior students, they asked, hey, you're saying turn from the spine, but when we watch the video, when we watch you say, if you watch me pivoting now, if this is my spine, if this is the axis, you can see the spine's actually, that's not the axis. This point's moving, it's sort of curving here, and so is the tailbone. So they said it's not, that isn't the real axis, the center. So I realized that they misunderstood. So we're not saying to turn from the spine. What we're saying is to maintain that state that you get from Silum Tao, that Sing, that decompression in the spine, and then maintain that as you turn and keep doing that. So the feeling is like up, 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 getting that rising up feeling, and maintain that as you turn. And as you do that, practice that hours and hours and hours, you will start to find your center. So if you see the way I'm moving, if we were to draw a line, it wouldn't be my spine, it would be somewhere here. And actually it's a point, it's not a line. The reason why in the beginning we teach, rise up the spine and move from there, or maintain that and move, is because if we say move from your center, first of all, people, and when they're not in that state, they can't feel their body in the way that they should be able to feel, that in that internal way. So they will be using their cognitive thinking to try to imagine where their center is and try to move from there, and that will become a waist orientated movement, which is what majority of martial artists say, use the hips or use the waist. So they use this as the power source to do stuff or to throw stuff. But what we're doing, we're finding our actual center. So in the beginning, before someone has got that state, develop that Nim Tao state through the rising up of the spine, if you tell them to find a point, I think you're going to be sending them on the wrong path. So first step is to find this, and then practice pivoting or practice stepping effortlessly, and then you'll start to find, okay, this is a point, this is where my center is. And like we said in the video, it varies, depending on if someone's got a bigger stomach, taller, shorter, their center will move accordingly, naturally, because of the because of the gravity, because of different shapes. Different objects have different centers of mass. So in Chum Kiu, the first step I recommend you guys do is first to notice how you can, or try your best to maintain that uprightness that we get in Silam Tao from the tail to the crown of the head. Maintain that uprightness as you start to turn. So after you start to do that, you will find a point, and that is your center. Then when you start to find that point and you start to utilize that as the engine of movement, so we move from this point, the legs, the arms, everything will follow that. In that state, then if you, for example, if I've got this going, and if I add the second one, so you got one, imagine the ball's turning here, you got one direction here, and the second one is the bongsa, or you got one direction here, and the second one is that upward movement, then this is where we start to delve into the multi-vector or multi-directional way of developing force.